everyone, and welcome to MARIYAM'S Reading Haven. Today, in this episode, I'll be sharing with you Chapter 1, The Naughty Spoiled Girl of The Naughtiest Girl in the School by Enid Blyton. So, let us begin. There was a big argument happening in the naughtiest girl's house. Her mother was insisting her to go to school, and she had other ideas. That was because Elizabeth Ellen had never been to school before. It was true. She had governesses to look after her. Her recent one was called Miss Scott. Elizabeth Ellen was very naughty. She had 6 governesses to look after her, but not one was able to turn her into an obedient or good-mannered little girl. Her mother was quite insistent with the fact that Elizabeth had been left alone for too much. The girl had to go to a place where she could work and play with children of her own age. She thought that school would be best for her. Elizabeth, however, had different ideas. What? Go to school with children? No way. She did not like little kids and children at all. Because her naughtiness was always frowned upon over there. She could not. They were shocked at her naughty ways, and when she called them babies, they did not like it, and they said what they thought of her, and Elizabeth didn't like it either. So that was the reason why she didn't like naughty children. She considered them quite naughty, unlike herself. However, she was wrong. She was a rather naughty little girl. So her mother, however she begged, her mother did not allow her to change her decision. So Elizabeth pouted at her and said, "I shan't work at all. I won't work a bit, and they'll think I'm so stupid they won't keep me." Elizabeth's mother frowned. She knew that Elizabeth had a very good brain, and she should be able to work well and get to the top of the form. And her parents could be proud of her. However, Elizabeth had different ideas. So her mother said, "Well, Elizabeth, if you want to make things difficult for yourself, you will have to," said Mother, getting up. "We have written to Miss Bell and Miss Best, who run Whyteleafe School, and they are willing to take you next week when the new term begins. Miss Scott will get all your things ready. Please help her all you can." Elizabeth frowned. She wouldn't help Miss Scott. She didn't want to go to school. She went to where Miss Scott was packing her things. There were brown stockings there. Elizabeth frowned at them. "Are these new stockings?" asked Elizabeth in surprise. "I don't wear stockings. I wear socks." "Well, you will have to at Whyteleafe School," said Miss Scott, sewing Elizabeth's name in on each stocking. Elizabeth begged Miss Scott to stay with her, but Miss Scott wouldn't change her mind anywhere else, just like her mother. So Miss Scott said, "Well, if you're such a baby as to be afraid of doing what all the other children do, then I have nothing more to say," said Miss Scott, beginning to sew another name on a brown stocking. She had been quite tired of Elizabeth, though she was fond of her. Elizabeth stood up at once and stamped her foot. "Afraid? I'm not afraid. Was I afraid when I fell on my pony? Was I afraid when our car crashed into the bank? Was I afraid when? Don't shout me, please, Elizabeth," said Miss Scott. I think you're afraid to go to school and mix with obedient, well-mannered, hard-working children who are not as spoiled as you are. You know quite well that you wouldn't get your own way and that you would have to share everything instead of having things yourself. And as you do now, that you should have to be punctual, polite, and obedient, and you're afraid to go. I'm not, shouted Elizabeth. I shall go, but I shall be so naughty and lazy they won't keep me. And then I'll come back home and you will have to look after me again. So then Miss Scott revealed to her that she was going to be a governess in another home, and she would leave the house. So if Elizabeth ever went back to her house, it would be completely empty and locked. Elizabeth burst into tears. She sobbed so loudly that Miss Scott put her arms around her and comforted her. So, however much she tried to convince Elizabeth that school wasn't as bad as she thought. Elizabeth did not want to go to the school at all. She decided. She looked at the pile of stockings. She hated them nasty round things. She wouldn't wear them. She'd take her socks to school and wear those if she wanted to. Miss Scott turned to her chest of drawers and began to take out some vests. Elizabeth picked up 2 brown stockings and pinned them toe to toe. Then she tiptoed to Miss Scott and quietly pinned them to her skirt. Then she went out of the room giggling. Then Miss Scott began to count the stockings. There should have been 6 pairs, but she was only able to count 5. Then she looked everywhere for the 6th. She then asked Mrs. Allen and Elizabeth where the stockings were. She first asked Elizabeth, and then Miss Elizabeth made her eyes look round and surprised and say, "No, Miss Scott." Mrs. Allen too did not know. And then when Miss Scott turned away, she saw the two stockings bouncing away like tails, just like Elizabeth had seen, and had tried to hide her laughter when Miss Scott had flounced to Mrs. Allen. Then both of them knew it was Elizabeth. She was always up to mischief. He said. Miss Scott agreed to when Mrs. Allen said it was time for her to go to school. "You will see, I do," said Miss Scott heartily. "You will see a different and much nicer child when you come back home again, Mrs. Allen." Elizabeth, who was passing by her and heard what her mother and her governess were saying, she hit the door with the book she was carrying and shouted angrily, "You won't see me any different, Mother. I'll be even more worse." "You couldn't be," said Mrs. Allen in despair. "You couldn't be worse." So that is all of chapter 1 today. I hope you will enjoy chapter 2. Elizabeth goes to school next when I post in that video. And if you did, like, share, subscribe, and write on the comments how you think Elizabeth might improve when she goes to school. Seriously, everyone, I've never read of an even more spoiled girl. So till the next time, bye.